Hi. The next thing we're going to talk about in our series on Genesis is the Tower of Babel, and it's the next incident that affected God deeply. It has a lot to do with a man named Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter of people as well as animals. A man who went to war, was openly an aggressor. Now, Nimrod was the son of Cush, who was the son of, and who was the son of Noah. Now, there's some debate on whether Nimrod was a giant, a member of the Nephilim, or not. If you see some of the statues of Nimrod, he's shown holding a lion in one arm and a snake in the other, and he's shown as this giant character. And in the Israeli type of folklore, he was sent out by God to actually kill the Nephilim, and he was given an amazing bow and arrow, and he was doing that quite regularly, and then things slightly altered, and he started off building the Tower of Babel because he wanted to reach God's heights, and he started shooting arrows at the angels. So whichever way you look at it, Nimrod was a giant of a personality. He was the first basically king of the world. He created Nineveh and countless towns and communities and cities around the place, and he was the guy. He was an amazing person to be around, be it good or bad. And he really was an aggressor. He had an ambition for humanity, and he was instigative in building a tower which reached into God's sphere of heaven, to challenge heaven, and to build a name for himself, to build a reputation, and the people around him were wholly on board with this. They were 100% on board with it. So God gave them the gift of tongues in a very different way to the way he gives us a gift of tongues these days. He gave them the gift of tongues so that they couldn't understand each other, because his rationale was if they are wanting to challenge God now, this early on in their evolution, then that's not a good thing. And if everybody on the world had the same tongue, then this fight was just going to get more and more. So he created numerous languages to sort of separate mankind out, to split them up. And you can see how the fall of Adam spreads like ripples in a pond here. and it still is spreading, and still even more than before. There's human pride, a pride that says we can be equal to God, if not better than God, and we can do without God. And that's prevalent today as it was prevalent in those times. We see two things through these chapters. We see God's justice, and he always punishes the people who come against his rule and come against him. He has to keep his word, and he has to be a good God. And once more we see God's anger boiling over, and the human race in fear of being destroyed. And this is a continual theme right the way through the Bible. God redeems the human race and asks for them to have a relationship with him. Some of them do, and some of them don't. And we see this continually through the Bible. Even Jesus himself predicted that God's wrath at some point is going to boil over and the human race will be destroyed. And he used Noah as a reference for that. And the second thing is we see God's justice and we see God's mercy. We see it with Adam and Eve, in that he sacrificed an animal to make clothing to hide their shame. We see it with Cain, where he put a mark on Cain's forehead so that he wouldn't be killed. He had the line of Seth running through mankind. Noah and his family were among them, and through them God saved the whole world. There were a people after the destruction of Babel, and the destruction of Babel is been talked about. It's one of those things that is it myth, is it real, or whatever. But there were a people who after Babel went over the mountains and settled as far away from that land as possible. When they met the sea, they settled, and they took a pictorial language with them, and because the alphabet hadn't been started to be written then, and these people were the Chinese people, and their language tells a story of the first 11 chapters of the Bible. In their word for create, it's a word of that's made up of other separate words. It's made up of mud, life or motion, and walking. Their word for devil is made up of man or son, garden, and secret or private. So devil is made up of a secret person in the garden. Tempter is made up of their word for devil, plus 2 trees and a covering. Boat is a container, is made up of the word container, 8, and mouth or person. So it's a boat or a container for 8 people. And the ark was a boat or a container for 8 people. So when the Chinese people went first, they believed only in one God, and it was only after Confucius and Buddha that they changed. So the Chinese language in itself is a confirmation from outside of the Bible that these things happened and these things were real, and were taken in a memory of the people scattered at Babel. And there are countless other words in the Chinese language which are made up by a sort of pictorial language, which is reminiscent of the early Genesis story. Well, next time, it's been quite a short one this time. Next time we'll be talking about Abraham, Isaac and Joseph, and then we'll move on from there. But I hope you've had a blessed time. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll speak to you soon. God bless.